Today we're going to do an introduction on the age of exploration, where kind of the tagline is no risk, no reward, or in modern day terms, go big or go home. So the learning target for today is that I can explain what motivated individuals and countries to explore new lands at the end of the Middle Ages. As a warm-up kind of thought, why does Evel Knievel try to jump over cars with a motorcycle? So we're going to take a minute, kind of think about this question, and watch a motorcycle jump.
Is this the real deal or not? The Australian native, he dedicated this to Evel Knievel, the Knight of Knights.
So that's a pretty nice video showing humans doing pretty extreme things. So why is it that someone would jump 300 feet on a motorcycle? Kind of relating it back to history, why would a certain individual, like Ferdinand Magellan, why would he just one day get up and leave? So we have a kind of explorer here, trying to get over to India. Who's going to come and help? But Super Wilson. Give him a nice little boost up in the atmosphere, scoring over to India. So kind of a little bit of a background. So as we learned before, feudalism holds Europe back, keeping the status quo. The serfs finally get off their manor to go fight the Crusades for Pope Urban II to retake the Holy Land. While they're there, the Crusaders bring back all sorts of new goods, such as tea and salt. And so in order to keep the flow of these goods, the Europeans need to find some trade routes to get into Asia. So kind of going back to the Silk Road, in the red you have the different land routes that the Europeans took to get into China and India, and then you had the different sea routes, which are in blue. But you have a couple problems with land travel. First is, do you think the European currency would work over in China? No. Unfortunately not. Second kind of big problem is you're going by ox cart over there. So all the goods that you have to take to barter with the different countries to get their goods, you have to bring with you. Another problem is winter. As snow piles up, a lot of places are become impassable, meaning not being able to travel. So you have a dirt road. No, it doesn't look that bad. Definitely passable. You could take some ox carts down there. But what happens if you add a little storm cloud and a little bit of rain? What happens is you get a jumbled mess of mud where traveling became bogged down and not a lot of movement for the oxens and the carts, could take place. So in order for Europeans to bring back goods in an efficient manner, they decided to expand their sea routes because land just wasn't cutting it anymore. So we had a lot of major innovations that helped the different sailors complete their tasks. So the first was the magnetic compass. So they kind of always knew what direction they were heading in. The next was the astrolabe, which really kind of helped pinpoint where they were by stars in the night. So what you would do is you would find a star where you kind of knew the path, say as, the North Star, and you would use the astroglobe and you would find it through the viewfinder, and you would come up with a different angle from the horizon. And from there, using a little bit of math and a little bit of science, you would determine what latitude and longitude you were at. So there was a time where latitude and longitude actually would save your life and not just be something that you have to do in class. However, there was a few irrational fears that sailors at this time had on what exactly was out there. So if we go ahead, a lot of people still believed if you went on the sailing, eventually you would just fall off the earth because the earth was flat. They didn't realize by today's standards that the earth was a globe. Another big fear was, if you look at the map, how you had a bunch of different creatures out there. Those were actual creatures that sailors believed exists in the water. And nobody wants to be sailing out in the middle of the ocean and then come upon this. I don't think anyone would want to be traveling and come across the Kraken. Another actual, not so much a fear anymore, but a problem was the amount of food that a trailer, travelers had to carry with them. So for every time you're eating food, it just keeps deplenishing, deplenishing, and deplenishing until you have no food. So you really have to ration out how much food you have. As far as doctors and medicine, nope, no doctors and medicine at this time. Even if you got a case of the sniffles, it could kind of mean the end for you. One of another big problems with land routes were the natives. So you have a bunch of natives, and it wasn't like they were best friends, hugging and hanging out and playing all sorts of different games. Most of it ended in wars.
I know you're tired. I know you're hurting. And I wish I could say something that was classy and inspirational. But that just wouldn't be our style. Pain heals. Chicks dig scars. Glory lasts forever.
So just like how Shane Falco tried to motivate his team to victory, what were some of the motivations behind early explorers? One of the biggest things was just money. Everybody loves money. Money and power kind of go hand in hand. They had a nice sense of adventure, a lot of fame. So what were the end results to the different explorations? The first thing is that they opened up the new world. A lot of that can be considered North America and South America. And they kind of got a better picture of what the world looked like. And they gained a lot of routes around the world to kind of cut down on land travel and make more exotic goods easily accessible to the rest of the country.